Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we can kill two birds with one stone in some way. Although that might be a bad... Okay, what is it I'm supposed to say on YouTube? Unalive? I've seen people do that. I have no idea why. Anyway, it sounds way too much like a newfangled young people thing to me. Anyway, two things... What was I going to say? Two things we can do today. One thing I wanted to do was to catch up on the dive bomber dispersion improvement skill, captain skill, and that is a perfect situation also to take a quick look at the epic commander Richard H. Best here. So I don't need to do both of them, but why are we talking about this? Well, I was testing to some degree the dive bomber dispersion and what kind of impact positioning makes in terms of how many times you get hit. And I was testing that also with the Louisiana, the brand new hybrid carrier that I still haven't found any in-game actually. Nobody seems to be playing these things. It's a bit of a shame. I was really looking forward to using my upgraded AA on the Mino, but I haven't had any luck so far. Maybe I have to wait until the tech tree line comes out for reals. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So the outcome was, no, it's pretty much all RNG, but bigger ships get hit more easily. So there is definitely a targeting circle or ellipses or rectangle or some form of polygon that the bombs land within. And there is a dispersion, RNG-wise, to decide if they hit the ship or don't hit the ship. And the bigger the ship, the more they hit. So I figured... let's try that on the Louisiana again, but this time with the skill. So what does the Dauntless Dive skill do? Well, generally it gives you a 5% improvement to the dive bomber dispersion. That is not an awful lot in general terms, because 5% of whatever the dispersion is going to make a massive difference. But the question is, what is the impact on the ship? Are we going to hit 5% more? And my prediction was going to be, it doesn't matter. Because the RNG factor is so massive that it just dwarfs anything else. But we'll see, we'll test it, and we are in order to test that properly, I am actually using the Epic Commander who has the Dauntless Dive Plus skill, which gives us a 7.5% dispersion improvement on the dive bombers. So we're doing the exact same thing I've done last time. So just as a quick refresher, last time we did Louisiana versus South Carolina. And it came out with an average of 33% hit rate. And these things drop 2 bombs per plane. So 2 times 3 were 6 planes, 12 bombs per attack. And that was actually better than the actual carrier. So the question now is, if we do that again versus the South Carolina, the exact same setup, but with a 7.5% improved dive bomber dispersion, how much better is it going to get? And the answer is, it isn't. Because if I have run the exact same test again, and I have actually managed to only get 30.7% on target. What does that mean? Does that mean that the feature is bugged? I don't think so. I won't discard the possibility that it just doesn't work, but I don't think so. I think what's happening here is that there's just way too much of a variance. The statistical error on these spreads is pretty massive. So even if we're averaging this over 260 bombs, we're still getting a decent amount of variance that is large enough just from the random number spread across the dispersion reticule, that it can have a statistical error here of almost 3%. So I think it might work, but it is completely inconsequential. So either it's broken or it works, but it doesn't make any difference statistically averaged over a reasonably large number. Because everything else is completely dwarfed by the pure RNG factor of if you're hitting or not. Which brings us back to a slightly different question. Because if we're looking at the profile of that commander, you have 2 other skills that you could choose. Now on a carrier, this doesn't make sense, because why would you improve the guns on a carrier? on a hybrid like the Louisiana, for example, that's a very different story, because you could be taking the armor-piercing cap shell. And in my opinion, you should absolutely positively do so. I would very much recommend using the APCS skill instead of the Dauntless Dive skill on the Louisiana, and buffing your guns, because this is not a carrier with guns. This is a battleship with planes, and your main damage dealer are going to be your guns. And buffing these guns, they're already pretty darn good. Buffing these guns even further is, I would say, 100% the choice to make here, rather than to use the Dauntless Dive, which means that you also don't really need to waste the commander on the Louisiana, unless, you know, if you're not a carrier player and you happen to get your hands on him. You still get you could still use him, but it wouldn't make any sense, because the other skill that he has is the Death from Above skill, which only improves the citadel damage by bombs, which, given that the American carriers are dropping high explosive bombs, is, well, relatively unlikely that you actually ever score one. So I would say this is a commander that is useless. So don't spend money on him, I'd say. Go with a regular commander and get yourself the APCS skill and the Citadel Strike if you want. I would probably more go with Horizontal Protection, but given how squishy these things is, it's not going to make a big difference. It's not going to help you an awful lot. You get a little bit better armored flight deck, but that's about it. You still can't tank anything. So it's the Citadel Strike on a regular commander is also reasonable. Reasonable thing to do. But yeah, this commander for the hybrids, definitely not worth it in my opinion. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.